Hello from Insomnia land. Since I can't sleep, I thought I would record a message, because I can. I want to talk about some of my ridiculous experience with male doctors in my life. Them males are really annoying as doctors sometimes. And not all doctors me or not all men me or whatever, that I don't give a crap. The first time I had a really weird experience with a male doctor was when I was getting a pelvic exam, a gynecological exam. And in Arkansas, you did that with your primary care doctor. You didn't go to a gynecologist, at least I didn't. And I was laying on a table, and he walked in, and I was up in the stirrups. The nurse was standing next to me. We were chatting, and then he said, "Well, this is nice. I'm going to be examining someone who's slim for once." I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, it's just a bit easier this way. It doesn't take as long. I can get you out of here really quickly." And the nurse just was mouthing, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And I was 23, 24, and definitely not the person I am now in terms of what he would have gotten from me now. Probably a swift kick in the face, to be frank. But I just turned my head to the right and thought, let's just get this over with so I can get the fuck out of here. And then I realized on the wall to the right were pictures of his wife and his 2 kids in the room where he was doing this exam on me that felt increasingly uncomfortable because he was saying inappropriate things. And yeah, I kept going to the motherfucker. That was the best part, because he actually believed me on a lot of the things that I was suffering from. And he also used to give me steroid shots, which would get me to feel so much better. And I could then work rather than deal with my underlying health problems. So he was a fabulous doctor. I think back up on that story now and I think, what the fuck? Like, why didn't I report him? But it's not my fault. It just happened. But this is like a kind of relationship theme that has occurred, inappropriate comments that have occurred in my time seeing doctors, and I've seen a lot of them. And I have to say, and I'm definitely not, one person's experience does not make it all true, but I have to say it's been very infrequent that I've had such bad experiences with female doctors or doctors of a non-binary, or that, well, actually, I don't know what people identify as, but I'm talking about male doctors born with penises who identify as cis men. And another one, this one's more recent. I had a massive hives on my back. It was part of one of my lupus flares and an allergic reaction due to the sun, due to medication and things. It's not uncommon, but my whole back was covered in hives. So I went to the emergency room, and they were like, "Well, it's just hives. Go take some Benadryl." Very Spanish thing. Come back in the morning. We'll send you to see the, I don't know, it was like skin doctor or emergency skin doctor. So I go in to see this guy, and he's sitting there like on a throne, and around him is all of these other doctors, and they're obviously trainees of different specialties, and they're really like bowing down to him. You could just tell it was like he was holding an audience. And come in, and I show him the picture, and I described what's going on, and his English was fantastic, which is not common. So that part was nice. And then they started speaking about me to each other in Catalan, so I couldn't even remotely begin to understand what they were saying. And then he just turns to me and he says, "It's a food allergy." And I said, I don't think that's possible. I'm pretty sure it's from the sun. I have lupus." And he was like, "No, it's definitely a food allergy. I can tell just by the way that it looks." He didn't examine me. He didn't touch me. He didn't check, like, nothing. He just looked at this picture on my phone, asked me a couple questions, and then prescribes me this high power antihistamine. And when he's doing that, which, actually fine, that's his expertise, cool. But when he's doing that, he prints my medications out, and he starts shaking his head, and he turns around and he talks to these 3 or 4 other people in a room, and they're all shaking their head, and one woman's looking at something on her phone, and then he was like, "You take too much medication. You're too young to be this sick." And by the way, I fucking hate that statement. Don't ever say it to me. And I was just like, "Well, I need the medication. I have these diseases I'm trying to adjust to." And he goes, "Well, if you take so many medications, no wonder that you have problems with getting hives. Go back and talk to your doctor." and he just dismissed me. And it was just like so viscerally like, you stupid woman. I was shocking. And another one that happened to me was Will and I went in to see a specialist, and when I'm really, really angry, I cry. Probably more so than when I'm sad. And I was really angry and I was in a lot of pain and I started crying. And the guy offered me some tissues and then turned to Will and just says, women. And it was just like, Will's looking at him and looking at me, and I think Will's expecting me to blow up or whatever, but I was just too much in shock over having to discuss some of the diagnoses that to let it bother me. These sorts of scenarios have never happened to me except with male doctors of a certain age group, and it's terrible to generalize, but I really don't like having to go see new doctors that are men, because I've had so many bad experiences. Those are just 3, and I could give you many more. And I think part of it is also my general distrust of strangers that are men. And I guess the reason I'm telling you the story is that healthcare for women is really fraught. We don't always feel safe, generally just out on the street. Don't always, sometimes not in work situations. Sometimes we do, but a lot of times we don't, and that's especially when we're around intrinsically men, males, cishet males. But then you add that into an invulnerable environment where you're talking about the most personal aspects of your physical health with someone, or your mental health with someone, and then to be treated like an object, or treated like you can't be believed, or you don't really know what you're really talking about. It's really, 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 really hard to trust the medical profession when that happens to you. And it's not that I haven't had good male doctors, but I tend to seek out doctors that are women, generally speaking, and I would definitely just prefer anybody who is marginalized over that. Oh, another great one. I had somebody a man ask me what I was going to vote on the Brexit referendum while he was taking a biopsy of a lump in my breast, like literally while he was inserting the needle into my boob. And again, the nurse just sat there and shook her head. I did kind of flip about that one, but yeah, so another aspect of being chronically ill or just always sick your whole life, like I feel like I've been sometimes, is having to deal with sexism in healthcare. And my stories are nothing compared to what you can get from women who face a lot, or just anybody who faces more marginalization than I do. I'm, white, cis, female, well-educated. So I kind of have it easy. But these are things that we don't always talk about. And so I would encourage you, if it's happened to you or does happen to you, to talk about it to people, because, dude, we don't have to put up with this shit. I don't know when you actually are supposed to say, address it, but I do a lot of letter writing if things piss me off in my healthcare. And usually you just get an apology or nothing back, but at least it's on the record, I guess. What do you do, if anything?